He's the NBA insider for USA Today, Sam Amick. He also writes for The Athletic, and he joins us now. His recent column, Spit Spat at Staples, an account of what happened before, during, and well after the Lakers-Rockets fight. Good morning, Sam. Thanks for joining us. How are you?
Dan, I'm doing great. Actually made the full switch, my friend. Athletic only at this point, but USA Today was great for me. But I appreciate you having me. Thanks.
All righty. Tell me what happened before the fight between the Rockets and Lakers.
So, well, I mean, it depends on, honestly, how far back we want to go. We could do a whole show talking about Rajon Rondo and Chris Paul. And you know, the more you pull the layers back on the onion on that relationship, the more you get reminded that these are two guys who just have not liked each other for a long time. You know, you have stuff with Team USA, I believe in 2008, where Chris Paul was getting a spot on the team that Rondo thought he deserved. You have fisticuffs in 2009, or at least, you know, tension in a New Orleans-Boston game where after the game came to an end, you know, they got into it a little bit. And so you have two guys who have chirped at each other for a long time, and you hear things about how essentially Rondo would get under Chris's skin by going down the road of, like, I have a championship, the type of thing you want and you're never going to get. And he would get in his head in that way. And then Chris would say, you know, I mean, listen, he's the far superior point guard, and would kind of have an air about him of, you know, I'm the king of the point guard mountain, so to speak. So these guys didn't like each other. And, you know, that day in the game, if I had to highlight one play more than any other, it was the one in the first half where Chris chucks Rondo as he's driving from the right side. Rondo goes flying, and, you know, it was a strong play on Chris's part. And after he, you know, Rondo doesn't get the whistle, Chris gets the bucket. Chris flexes twice to the crowd and kind of plays that up a little bit. And from what I heard, Rondo from that point on would not stop talking to Chris. And you know, the sparks kind of started flying at that point.
Do you think Rondo spit on him?
I do. I mean, listen, technology is an incredible thing. And yesterday when I get the video of that situation, you know, we had seen a ton of video on Twitter and social media already, obviously. But, you know, when you have a 200 megabyte video that we got our hands on at The Athletic, and I'm looking at a high-res laptop screen where you can just sit there and watch Rondo appear to kind of check his you know, his left side real quick, to almost as if he was, you know, seeing if official Jason Phillips was within, you know, kind of eye shot, if he was going to see him. And then you see, you know, spit, whatever you want to call it, come out of Rondo's mouth and go towards Chris. I mean, at minimum, if you put yourself in Chris's shoes, it's that idea that, you know, that Rondo's spit just landed on you. You can't judge intent, but at that point, Chris doesn't care. You just spit on me. And that's always going to be a trigger.
I was surprised Ingram only got 4, and even Rondo, even if it's accidental spit, I would have given him more just for that gesture. Paul, I understand, retaliating, you're going to pop him for a couple of games. Ingram with a cheap shot there where somebody really, really could have gotten hurt, and the fact that Rondo spit on Chris Paul. Did the NBA get it right with the suspensions, in your opinion?
I think they were light, to be honest with you. I'm a little surprised by some of the feedback within the league. In fact, last night I went out to the Clippers-Rockets game and caught up with Doc Rivers a little bit afterward, and I wanted to get Doc's opinion on that question, if he thought it was light, and if as a coach you had any concern across the league that, you know, if you put yourself in the player's shoes, are they still going to have the mentality of, man, nobody wants to fight in this league because it costs you so much money. So on the one hand, yeah, I know it still costs these guys a lot of money, but I feel as if the league is playing that card too much, meaning, you know, they will tell the media, like, hey, listen, Chris lost X amount, Brandon lost X amount. Yeah, it's a lot of money, but these guys make an incredible amount. And I think the player perspective more likely is, all right, if I have a problem in a game and I'm really upset with the guy, now in my head, like, I'm probably going to get 2 games. And I think maybe I'm okay with that because this dude is really ticking me off. Like, that's where my head is at. I think it could lead to more on the court stuff. Doc disagreed. Doc thought that they essentially got it right and that, they didn't need to go any harder.
Is this fight good for the league?
Man, I don't know. It almost depends on what comes next. In a vacuum, yes. But you know what it made me think of, Dan, and this is maybe a reach, is, and I'm not a UFC guy, so I apologize if I get any of the details wrong, but like the McGregor, Khabib situation, like, when you have controversy, when you have over the top, stuff like this, entertainment value speaking, it's great for that entity because it draws interest. I get in a car yesterday to just get a lift ride to the arena, and the guy's talking to me about what happened. Everybody's talking about what happened. So the NBA is front and center. But, if it does open that door to more stuff like this, then it becomes a turnoff to a certain audience. And then business-wise, I think you end up taking it down a negative road.
I know it's a small sample size, but the product on the floor for the Lakers, what do you like? What concerns you?
I like the athleticism. I like, the tempo. And honestly, as a guy who it's weird. We almost in the media we're afraid to use the word fun. Like you can't ever admit that you're having a good time. It is fun to watch the impact that LeBron has on other basketball players. So I think that is enjoyable because you already see the ripple effect of his presence. But what I don't like, shooting an obvious problem, defense going to be a problem, lack of big men, obviously a problem, leaning on JaVale McGee way too much. I give JaVale credit for having carved out the career that he has at this point. I mean, the guy's got rings. The guy's now playing with LeBron. That's fantastic. But, the other night in that game, you're looking at it, and offensively, I mean, they were featuring JaVale.
I know.
Pretty routine. It's what are we looking at here? And I'm not even trying to play that card of, he's not a punchline, but look who's on the floor. Like what we're featuring JaVale, and then he's playing big minutes, and then so those are problems. And I think honestly, in terms of the context of this season, this is just really a disaster for them right now when you're losing Rondo and Ingram the way they are and maybe getting off to a really tough start, because when we would all debate about whether or not the Lakers were going to make the playoffs, and everybody thought we were crazy for saying maybe they don't, like what was the whole subplot? Like you can't get off to a bad start in the Western Conference. You can't recover like you can in the East. And right now they're facing that kind of a prospect.
I'll leave you with this, that a few whispers there about LeBron James leaving Cleveland, and maybe it was, he'd lost a little tread off the tires here, and they're kind of kicking him on the way out. What do you make of these whispers about LeBron and his abilities, his talent level now?
I mean, that's the league. I mean, that happens every time a guy heads for the exits. I'm not saying it. The guy is at an incredibly high level, and he's still the best player in the game. And I think the other thing we're going to be looking at just all year long is forget about how the Cavs or the media might see his talent level. It's how do his peers see his talent level, and who's going to come join him next summer. That's the number one thing. He's got to find a way to paint a pretty enough picture in LA to make sure that, whoever it might be, Anthony Davis, all the other usual suspects that might come next summer, he's got to finish that job, because if he doesn't, it's going to be a lonely Laker experience. And again, the West is just so unforgiving that he's got to get that part of the equation done.
But do they make a deal? Do they? I talked to Chris Webber about this last hour. I said, you got to prevent yourself from overreacting if you're not playing great or you're on the outside of the playoff bubble and you make a deal. I wouldn't do anything this year unless I got somebody that I thought was going to help me big picture long term. I don't want, some Band-Aid to come in to help me make the playoffs and we're the 7th seed. You got a plan, stick with the plan, and don't run that risk. Do you think that the Lakers make a move?
Agree. I would agree, and I think the list of guys who would check both boxes is probably pretty short, which is to say, it would be part of the long-term plan, but also something that you do right now. I mean, I have no intel to indicate that they're in on the Jimmy Butler stuff at all. But that type of a player conceivably would be the road you go down, because, you get an early crack at him as far as a prospective free agent, like a Paul George situation in Oklahoma City. But yeah, you can't do any Band-Aids at all this season. And they have a luxury, which still amazes me, that not only did they get LeBron James, but they got LeBron James coming in the door being very patient and sending the message to them that I don't want you to just go lose assets for the short-term gain. The guy that I wonder about and that there is already chatter about is Lonzo, because you have teams around the league who are going to look at him and say, man, we could really have him be part of our young core, might be willing to give you something of value in return. And you have to gauge that value. If Rondo's going to play most of the year and Lonzo's value is going to go down, then you got to take that into consideration.
What if you said, you know what, we'll give you Lonzo for J.J. Redick straight up?
I would think about it. JJ, on the one hand, father time is something you got to look at with JJ. He's playing great, but, you see the way the Sixers had gone away from him a little bit and, to help Markelle Fultz come along.
I guess Philly. I can't have three guys in the backcourt who can't shoot. So, it doesn't make sense, right?
Yeah.
For the 76ers.
Right. Exactly.
Well, we had a bet the other day, starting the season. I said, who has more threes this year? Ben Simmons, Markelle Fultz, and I took Mo Bamba. Isn't that crazy?
That is crazy. It is crazy. Well, don't leave out just for kicks and giggles. Did you see the video of Lance Stevenson the other day when he fired the three from the right corner and did the 360 celebration as if he knew it was falling in, and it wasn't even close. It just careened off the left side of the rim. That's Lakers shooting right now.
Oh, God. Sam, thank you. Great to talk to you again, and good luck with The Athletic.
Thank you, Dan. Appreciate you.
All right. Sam Amick. I love his stuff. A columnist for The Athletic, used to be with USA Today.
For more Dan Patrick Show, tune to Audience Channel 239 on DirecTV or download the Dan Patrick Show app.